Well, I wore my Indian shirt today because it's almost Thanksgiving, and it's one of the few times of the year that we traditionally give a little attention to the Native American community. I have relatives in that community. My great-grandmother was in the Choctaw Nation, and it's just that at the time when they lived, since our relatives did not live on the reservation, they fought in the Army. It's okay, both sides. Civil War. The war between the states, as we like to call it. In those days, one had two choices to write on the birth certificate, white or black. And although they were very dark, they wrote white, and over a couple of generations, they forgot their Native American background, and now it's in style again, so I have relatives making arrowheads and jewelry like that. Our culture changes, you know. My mother used to say, she was a great genealogist, and she used to say that half of our relatives from way back were on the Mayflower. She said we're descended from Queen Elizabeth. I always thought it was funny. I don't think the Queen would want that known, really. But when some years ago there was a little house fire at Buckingham Palace, my half-brother, Kevin, my brother, who has been diagnosed with Asperger's, wrote to the Queen and said, since I'm a relative, I'd like to come over and help you to tidy up. And then he got this nicest little handwritten from someone on staff, little embossed card that said, oh, thank you so very much. Please stay right where you are. So we're related to the Choctaw chiefs and to the Queen of England, and it's pretty awesome that in America you can have such a wide span of connections. This is an incredible nation. And one of the great scenes that we like to hold before our inner image is the scene of those first Thanksgivings when the Native American people brought gifts to the pilgrims and shared the bounty of the land with them. My mother used to say half our relatives were on the Mayflower and the other half were here throwing rocks at them when they arrived. But we do, I think, all take pride in the image of the first people from Europe coming to this country and feeling welcomed by the wise ones of the time. I also liked Jay Leno's comment that after the meal, the Native Americans said, well, it's been fun. We know you've got a long ride back to England, so see you later. God bless them. They brought sweet potatoes and maize. They had no idea how many Europeans there were and that they would just keep coming and coming and coming. And yet, I think the spirit of giving that is expressed in that image we hold of the first Thanksgivings. Thank you so much. You're wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. It's on. It's on. Yay. The spirit of giving and receiving is the American way. We are a generous people. The response has been awesome to those who have been impacted by Hurricane Sandy and continues to flow in that direction. We had a service at St. John's Episcopal last Tuesday night. There were 150 people there, and they gathered an awful 105 pounds of food goods and monetary contributions for the Red Cross of almost $500. So that was wonderful for a small group of people. Thank you, God. Thank you. It was a really good interfaith service, and we're going to have a shared Thanksgiving Eve service. And today, of course, we're gathering food for the food pantry. Monetary donations can be directed, of course, directly to the Red Cross online. You can find their address and do that, or to the Salvation Army. We encourage you to do that. And we encourage you to give lovingly. Now, in order for you to continue to be a giving person in a giving nation, it is important that you have some prosperity principles to live by. So get ready. It's going to be intense. We're going to go over some important points that we all know. You've heard them before. This is a summary. We're heading to the holidays. You've been treated to several years of hearing how terrible the economy is and how awful all of this is. So now we're going to get a new consciousness. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, great, this is where she gives us the talk to get our money for the church. Well, if you know me, you know that we don't do that here. And yet it has occurred to me that if you are not given the prosperity principles, we can't expect you to prosper. I'm not in this for the money. If I were, I'd have quit 30 years ago. I'm not kidding. That was the last time I got a raise. And I'm not kidding. So I now have an income less than it was nearly 30 years ago, and I'm still here. How can I manage that? Well, God is my source, and somehow beautifully it all works out. But my thought is that if I don't start sharing more of the prosperity principles that I am learning, I am holding back from you. And I want you to know these things. So here's the review of last Sunday's talk and the Sunday before that. It starts out like this. First, you are not asking God for something that is not there when you ask for prosperity or wholeness or life or happiness or love. All that is already there. It's already with you. Everything that you require is right now in your presence. You are not asking God to create something that isn't already there. So what you are doing as you pray and think about prosperity is preparing to receive what God has already given you. Imagine how you would feel to discover that there's a bank account with many millions of dollars in it with your name on it. And you just hadn't realized it all. You had to go and draw it out. But as in some of those movies about people inheriting a great deal of money, you must demonstrate your willingness and readiness to prosper on the level that you say you want. Prosperity meaning not just money, but also money. Also meaning health, relationships that work all the time, fun times, good things, beauty, creativity, everything that makes life wonderful. That's your prosperity. It's already there for you, and you deserve to have it, but you've got to know that, and you've got to act as a good steward with what you already have in order to make room for this good that God so wants to give you. The wise and loving Father, Mother has created a universe with seed substance ample for our every want. If we are not prospering, then something is happening between the giving of the gift and the receiving. Now, that's why unity, new thought, are not such easy paths. Because we don't get away with saying, well, God just wanted me to be poor. It's more blessed to do without. Really? No. You don't believe that. The American dream is that you can have whatever you can use well and enjoy and share. That's the dream. So first of all, you are asked to clear your mind of unworthiness. Let go of all those fears and all that saying, I don't deserve it, I can't have it, I can't afford it. Those words go away from the vocabulary of a prosperous person. So you stop talking like that. And you start making 3 lists. We talked about this last time. The things that you want. Just pick 3 things you want. 3 things you don't want. 3 things you're grateful for. Now that seems like a small task of homework. I started it, and every time I start it, my mind sort of wanders all around, and I find an excuse not to complete the list. How can you choose from only 3 things? Well, there's a secret. If you're just asking for things, it might seem mind-boggling. If you put on that list just barely enough to get by, really? What if the prosperity consciousness of planet Earth were 100% your concern? That this whole Earth and all of its civilizations, this great nation that we love and celebrate, could not prosper beyond the level of your personal prosperity consciousness. You are responsible for that. Are you really going to go around talking about lack and perpetuating that consciousness? Or are you going to become part of the solution? Now, don't say, no, don't say, oh, the government. I don't know about you, but I'm sort of glad the election's over. I've had the government up to here, right? So, all right. We love it. We're grateful for it, but we're not going to blame it. We're going to become a positive, creative factor in this great nation instead of expecting someone else to fix it. We can do it. We can. All right. So in order to do it, one of the first things you want to do is get rid of clutter. I went through my pantry last night and got rid of the things that were expired, quite a number. And I felt rather sad that I could not donate them to religious community services because they're no good. That's not a gift. That's a burden. So expired food, no. That goes in the garbage. Let that be recycled into the universe of life. As my husband likes to say, when I can't eat everything on the plate, something will eat it. So release it. Let it go, right? You can't eat all those pumpkin pancakes from Denny's? I tried. Oh, they're good. They're good. But if you can't eat them, let them go. Something will eat it, I promise. So I took things out of the pantry that we weren't likely to use. I don't think most families really require two quart bottles of ketchup. You don't. So someone else could enjoy that, and that gives me pleasure. So I brought things in. I went to Big Lots. I got some more things and brought them to our food labyrinth. Get rid of the clutter. Now, you ready? We can do that, right? We know about recycling and circulation. You have congestion in any part of your body, stiffness, arthritis, congestion, the system isn't working like it should. Give something away that's in your way. It works wonders. It really does. Release and let go. But here's the thing, no strings. If you give with specific directions of how it should be used, you haven't given. You've just instructed someone to carry out your orders. That's not a gift. We had people once who had donated a couple of chairs about 150 years ago, and they used to be up there. And we had to move them some other place because something else had to be fixed or reupholstered or whatever, and the people complained to me. I'd only been here a little while, so I still thought it would be easy to minister. I was full of brazen lip at that point. And they said, "Why'd you move our chairs?" And I said, and I don't know where the voice came from, "Sounds to me like they're still yours. When are you going to come pick them up?" Oddly, they didn't come back. I try to learn greater tact, but some of these things, I have to say, are fairly basic. And you know what? We ought to know them by now. If you go to eat at Denny's, I seem to be all interested in Denny's today, and you're getting ready to leave a tip, are you seriously going to leave only 15%? Are you really? Really? Now, if you spend $10, what's 10% of $10? You can do this. What is it? $1, $1. So if you're going to only give 15%, how much would that be? $1.50. If you're going to give 20%, which is what civilized people do, for God's sake, how much are you going to give? $2 on $10. Pretty simple math. It's not hard to do. It's easier to figure 20% than 15%. For some reason, I have to get a pencil and paper to do that. But your tithe, yes, the T word, that's 10%. How many dollars on $10 is 10%? 1. How many dollars on $100 is a tithe? $10. If you say you cannot tithe, you're saying you cannot give 1 penny on a dime? Really? I can't believe it. You won't. Not you can't. Now, mind you, I'm not saying you have to tithe here. Never said that. Did not ask you for your money. Would not do it. It would shame me and this church. Would not ask you to do something I don't do. I tithe. Even with pay cuts, I tithe. Even with increased expenses, I tithe. Even with medical costs, I tithe. The next question I can predict. Net or gross? Here's the thing. If a farmer says, I don't want to plant that many seeds, but I want the same amount of harvest I got last year, that doesn't make sense. Tithe according to the harvest that you want. You can only see yourself tithing on net, tithe on net. When you discover that it is not optional, that it does work, and that if you do not give freely, joyously, lovingly, 10%, the universe has a way of extracting it. Just watch your bills. Unexpected costs, the vet bill, the rug had a hole in it, the air conditioner quit. It'll add up. That's just the way the universe works. Are you being punished? Oh, no. You're being taught. Am I saying you should give your money here? Oh, please. No. Here's the rule, and you get to interpret it. You give 10% or more of all that you receive, net or gross, up to you, to wherever you are fed spiritually. Wherever you go to feel the sense of community and loving and positive uplift and encouragement and joy, that's where you give. You say, well, I got it from a book. Tithe to the author. Find the publisher. Buy books and give them away. Let that be your tithe. Someone brings you a cup of coffee at Denny's. Here we go again. I'm going to contact them about some kind of a kickback here. The waitress says just the right thing. Oh, you look radiant today. Whatever it is you're going to do today, I know that you can do it. You want to give her your tithe? Do that. You are free to tithe wherever you receive spiritual food. Whenever you can say, oh, that just fed me. That movie fed me. Well, if you can't figure out how to give to the director or the actor or something, then buy tickets to the movie and give them to others who also feed your world spiritually. Do something. For one thing, it's a simple matter of math in our communities. If the things that feed us and help us and lift us are not fed by us, they go away. You want the church still to be here? Okay, well, we're right at that little fiscal cliff that they call it. But let me say this, do not give to need. You say, well, why don't you tell us? Why don't you tell us that you need these things? Because need is a very bad word. If you give to need, you will get what you give. Need. You say, well, I tithe, I give to whoever needs it. It's a loving and wonderful and civilized thing to do, to give to charity. I always do it. Americans are giving people. We're proud of that. That's how we deserve our wealth. We share it. But that's not a tithe. Oh, I have a relative who requires extra medical concerns, and if I give to them, isn't that a tithe? Are they feeding you spiritually? If they are, it's a tithe. If they need it, it's over and above. See, here's the idea. If you become a tither, however you want to direct it, and it's completely up to you, you will prosper so that you can handle your charitable concerns, the requirements of your family, and everything else that comes up. The whole point is to empower you so that you become prosperous. We're not just trying to give you fish. We're trying to teach you how to fish. Now, that means no strings, and it means consistently. Can you imagine someone buying a puppy dog, sweet little puppy, taking it for a walk for about a month, like a journey, a trek, and then figuring you didn't have to walk the dog ever again? That's what it's like if you give just one big gift, no matter how big, and then you don't follow it up. We're looking for consistency here. The Infinite Spirit's trying to teach us how to live a life filled with gratitude. And that means giving freely. Now, I've noticed that I have a little hang-up in one area, at least one. And that is if I seem to have to pay something I didn't think I was going to have to pay, or lose something that I thought I should have, I grieve about that a little bit. You know, the $20 bill I just know was in there and it must have flown out the window. The coupon I was counting on, and it turns out it's expired. The iPad that disappeared. Oh. But look, either we believe in God's omnipresence, omnipotence, omnibenevolence, or not. And if our lives are filled with fear, they can't be filled with faith. And if we grieve and grieve about the lost wallet, the lost ticket, the lost whatever, we will suffer. What we're saying to the universe is, we care more about this than the great ideas you've given me, Lord. The creative ideas, the openness and receptivity. I want to be open for business, for the good to flow to me. We went to the jazz festival, jazz holiday. Wanted to hear Bonnie Raitt. She's so great. Levi was in town just for a couple of days, and he had a ticket, but it had been left at home. So he's so careful with his money. He was so concerned that ticket was left at home that it even occurred to him, I shouldn't go. It's $15, okay? It's not giving blood. It's $15. If you want to go, then you can go. In fact, here's the fact. Edwin Gaines, our great prosperity teacher, said, if you want peanut butter, really want it, and it's $100 a jar, get peanut butter. Because you have a right to have that good thing that is for the good in your life. Don't keep moaning about the price of it. There is a way for you to get that fulfilled. So we went back. We stood there ready to buy the extra ticket. He was crabbing about it. And a man walked up and said, I've got 2 extra tickets here. Can I give them to you? See, when you're open for business, ready to play like the big kids in this universe, fearless, you can't lose. You lost this little thing that was taken, it'll flow back to you. And what will be the multiplication power? The one Jesus gave. 10-fold, 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold, and more, according to your faith. You say, well, I don't want to tithe. It's an Old Testament thing. I don't live in the Old Testament anymore. I put in as little as possible. Really? Charles Fillmore had a magical phrase. He said, some people want everything as cheaply as possible, including the kingdom of heaven. He also said the worker is worthy of his hire. Someone does something for you, you value it, you show that appreciation. Because if you don't show the appreciation, you are spiritually still a child, not an adult. You cannot handle the prosperity. If you can handle the prosperity, you're not afraid of parting with this or that when it comes about. So yeah, it's a lot to ask. Tithing. Here are the 2 reasons given for not tithing. I can't afford it, and that is not true, because everyone can afford a dime on a dollar. They can't make me. That's the next one. No, we can't make you. We're not going to try to make you. There are some churches that will make you fill out a pledge, and they'll go back at the end of the year and see if you filled all that out. I'm not going to do that. That is just too much work. It's up to you. You give as you want to, anywhere you want to. Go ahead. But if you go to one place to eat a lovely dinner, do you tithe to the next restaurant? You tithe where you're fed. You give where you're fed. Because you want that to be able to keep feeding people. It's pretty simple. But more than that, it's not because they need it. You give because you wouldn't be you if you didn't. You can't even get a cup of coffee for $1. But I see people put $1. Good. That's all you can give. Good. The widow's mite is a valuable thing if it's the widow's mite. That's between you and God. Man, it got quiet in here. Wow. I tithe first. I tithe automatically. I tithe without doubt. I tithe consistently. And I do it not only to this church, but to individuals, to places that are not tax deductible, because that is the way I am. And that's the way you are. So knowing that, it does something to you. When you give in trust, trusting the universe, trusting God, you get into a consciousness where you expect good things to flow to you. You're just open for business for the universe, and your feeling of thankfulness is perpetual. You're so grateful all the time. And I've noticed that if you're in anything of service or sales, a grateful person, an appreciative person, is going to draw others to you. And bitterness is so bad for business, you know. It's so bad for relationships. So if you're dating, if you're in the dating world, watch what the person who picked up the tab puts on the table for a tip. Because that person is not going to be more generous with you. It also shows how generous that person is with himself or herself. Amen. I like that. Because if you can't give, it means you can't receive. And if you can't receive and you can't give, you're not alive. You want to be more alive? What can I share today? So I don't have any things. Okay. Share a smile. Share, open the door for somebody. Share, good morning. Share, oh, you're wonderful. You have beautiful hair. My husband would love to hear that. The thing is, Thanksgiving is for many people something you just have to get through. You have to sit at the table with those relatives that you would otherwise not even associate with. Or you sit at a table where someone used to be. They're not anymore. And you look at that empty place, and it's hard to feel grateful. So be grateful for your memories. Be grateful for your hopes, even the ones that seem not yet to be fulfilled. Be grateful for you, because you are the light of the world you live in. The world is just watching and waiting for you to demonstrate the truth consciousness that you know and that you are. And the generosity of your spirit, it's lifting this whole economy. I really believe that. I believe that America has a built-in bounce back. And I believe in humankind. Yes, we've had some difficult times. And you might say we need to learn to love ourselves more and each other. So we start with little things, interfaith services, smiles to strangers, gifts without strings, when we really don't know what the organization's going to do with the money or the food, and we just give because that's who we are. And you find that the more grateful you are, the more you want to live. I know this. Being a human, that is a spiritual being going through a human experience, it's not so easy. And I know what it feels like to wake up even when you have a lot of stuff in your life. You're not sure where to go with it, not sure if you can keep on and how to be happy. So I'm suggesting that you begin to affirm there is a divine plan for my life. And it's a good plan. And stop saying, I don't know and I can't. Because it's such a drag. There used to be a TV show called Zoom or something. Whenever a character said, I don't know, some green glop fell on their head. It'd be neat if the universe just did that. Well, I don't know. So start saying the words that you want to plant as seeds. And start finding things to be grateful for. Anything. If the meal is terrible and the company is crabby, and everything is cold and late and nobody knows how to pay for it, say, wow, what a beautiful day it is outside. It's something, because if you can't be grateful, you can't be alive. And what I want for you is a living Thanksgiving, not just this week, but all year. God bless you. God bless you. Woo! I get to talk about tithing and get a standing ovation. That's awesome. Well, that's for you, because you are the ones making these principles alive.